Good morning. Welcome to the Committee of Adjustment hearing for the Scarborough District. Today is October 20, 2021. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, which is an online digital platform, and the hearings are streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, which is an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone, or a tablet app. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Before we begin, we acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment and the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that applies to property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever property to create new lots. With regards to receiving a copy of the decision of the committee today, anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and an email address because Committee of Adjustment and the T-Lab will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or the T-Lab, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal, or the OLT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. When an application is uncontested, the agent or the applicant will proceed with their presentation if required by the committee. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or the agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or the agent will proceed first and make a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those who are entitled to the notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then speakers either in support or in opposition to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or the agent has the opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Please note, for the morning session, which is scheduled to start at 10 a.m., we are dealing with items 1 to 18. For the afternoon session, scheduled to start at 1:30, we will be dealing with the balance of the agenda, leading from items 19 to 32. For the session schedule to begin, my apologies. Before hearing the first item, I would like to receive confirmation of minutes of the last meeting. I would need a motion to adopt the minutes. Members of the committee. Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the motion for approval of minutes of meeting September 22nd for approval.
May I have a seconder? Member M.
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
All in favor of the motion? The motion is carried and the minutes of the meeting from the last hearing have been adopted. For the morning session, which are going to be dealing with items 1 to 18, are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for items in this time slot? I see none. Thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, may I have any deferral requests for the items that are scheduled for the morning session from between, for items 1 to 18?
Through the chair, there are two deferral requests. The first one is item 4, 2031 Kennedy Road. The deferral request is at the request of the applicant to address concerns identified by Transportation Services, which will result in a revised application.
Thank you, Colin. Staff, can I have either the agent or the applicant or the owner for item 4 who is requesting the deferral? Sorry? They're not with us? Okay. So members of the committee, we do not have the applicant or the agent or the owner for item number 4 who have requested for deferral. I have a motion on this deferral request. Member Said?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the applicant has requested for the deferral to address the concerns of transportation section, I move the motion for deferral of item number 4.
Seconder, Member M?
I'll second that motion of deferral, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried and the application is deferred sine die. Any other requests, Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer?
Through the chair, the remaining deferral request for the morning time session is item 5 at 806 Kennedy Road. The deferral request is at the request of the applicant to address concerns identified by community planning and the Deputy Mayor Thompson, which will result in a revised application.
Thank you. Staff, is the applicant or the agent available? Thank you. And it is Lance Caprillian.
Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee.
Good
My name is Lance Caprillian.
Please go ahead.
We are requesting this deferral to give us some time to make some revisions to the proposal. We've been in discussion with both the deputy mayor and planning staff, and we think we're in good shape with everyone. We just need some more time to get it right.
Thank you very much, Lance. Members of the committee, you heard the agent speak to the request for deferral. Any comments or questions? Member Said?
No questions, Madam Chair. I am willing to move the motion if everybody is okay with that, because it's a request from the applicant. Thank you very much, Lance. You are trying to address the concerns of community planning as well as the Mayor Thompson. That's a good sign. We appreciate that. With that, I move the motion for deferral of item number 5.
Thank you. Seconder, Member Gary? Gary, you are on mute, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second that motion to defer. Seems very appropriate in these circumstances.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application has been deferred. Was it sine die?
Yes, deferred sine die.
Defer sine die. Thank you. Thank you, Lance, for your time. All right, that brings us to the end of the deferral requests, I understand. Thank you. All right, so we are now going to vet the agenda, and we'll start with the first item. The first item that we have is for 12 Coxworth Crescent. We have the agent Gopala Krishnan.
Yeah, I'm present here.
Good morning, Gopala. Members of the committee, any questions of the applicant or the agent at this time? I see none. Gopala, do you have any comments to make at this time?
I don't want to make any comments other than if there is any question, then I would
Okay.
answer it.
There are no questions at this time, as I checked with all the committee members. So committee members, if there are no questions, can I have a motion? Member M, please go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I put forward a motion of approval for item number 1 to construct a new carport. I don't believe that there is any conditions attached to this approval.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the motion. I second the motion for approval, and there are no conditions to that.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously, and the application for 12 Coxworth Crescent has been approved. Thank you. We now go to item number 2, and item number 2 is 4438 Shepherd Avenue East. Can I have the agent, please? We have Alfred Zetto. And I do see we have other members as well, but if we need to ask questions of them, we will call them up. Members of the committee, so can we have Alfred, please? Oh, he's there. Good morning, Alfred.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members committee. My name is Alfred Cito. I'm here on behalf of the owner of the art school. I have no further comments to make, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Alfred. Members of the committee, any questions for Alfred?
No, but Madam Chair, I do note that we do have a couple of speakers in opposition.
Oh, we
And
do?
so, well, according to the list, I don't know whether Alex Chan from the
Sorry.
condo corp is.
Let me double check. I wasn't sure. So are those speakers? My apologize. So those are speakers on this application. Okay, so we will hold this down. Okay, I thought they were
Yes.
related to the applicant or the application. Okay, my apologies, Alfred. So please stay with us. And for those who are waiting to speak for 4438 Shepherd Avenue East, we will come back and discuss this item and hear you when we get back to this item. Thank you. Oh, my apologies. Yes, it does say opposition. Thank you. Okay, number 3, item number 3 is 8450 Shepherd Avenue East. And we have Christina Grimes as the architect. Okay, thank you.
Hi there. Hi, Madam Chair and Council. I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Members of the committee, any questions of Christina or any comments? Member Said, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I believe this is a very good development in the Scarborough area. So a lot of information has been provided by the designers, architecture. I will appreciate, Madam Chair, if we can hold this item for a small presentation to have further information about the nature of the project.
Okay, so you want to hold down this item for more information on the project? Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So Christina, you heard one of the members of the committee would like to hear a little bit more about the project, so we would hold this down and come back to it in the main body of the meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you very much. Item number 6, 681 Warden Avenue. And we have with us Candace Hood. Okay, hello, Candace.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and Committee.
Good morning. Members of the committee, we have the applicant here. Any questions for Candace? I see none. Candace, do you have any comment to make before the decision is made?
No, I do have a brief presentation, but if there are no questions and you don't think I need to proceed, then we can go ahead with the decision.
Let me ask the committee members. Committee members, there's a presentation that Candace has. Would you like to see the presentation, or are you prepared for a motion?
I'm prepared for a motion, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
all right. Candace, is that okay if we proceed with the motion?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead. So members of the committee, motion, please. Member M.
Through you, Madam Chair, there's been a substantial amount of work on this file as it relates to the site plan control application that is currently under review. We've had a really good planning staff report that says that they do not have any objections to the proposed variances and that it would allow them to continue on the process for their site plan approval. We also have seemed to have commentary from the transportation department. So with that, I feel that it is an appropriate application to keep the process moving forward. And I put forward a recommendation of approval. And let me just double check the conditions.
There are no
There
conditions.
is no conditions. So yes, it's a motion of approval, no conditions attached.
Okay. May I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay.
Madam Chair, I second that motion for approval.
All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried unanimously and the application is approved. Thank you.
To the chair, thank you.
Okay, we now go to item number 7. Item number 7 is 37 Lindale Road, and we have the agent, Jeffrey Moot. Jeffrey, you with us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff Moot.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, any questions for Jeffrey at this time? I see none. Jeffrey, any comment that you wish to have at this time?
Just that I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I trust the application information was fairly clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, I did not, Member Said, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I am willing to move the motion. We don't have the questions to the applicant. Actually, there is only one variance attached to this application, which is minor. There is a difference of the lot coverage from 32 to 38, which make a difference of 35 square meter. I feel this is a minor variance. I am willing to move the motion for approval of item number 7, and there are no conditions attached to that.
Perfect, thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member M, please go ahead.
I'll second that motion, and I would just only add that I see that TRCA has received the permit application and they have no objections in principle. They do want some updated drawings, but that will be finished prior to the issuing of their permit, and therefore I'm satisfied. And I second Member Saeed's motion for approval.
Okay, all in favor of this motion? Motion's carried. The application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we now go to item number 8. Item number 8 is 98 Wanstead Avenue. And may I have the agent, the speaker, Alia Rafiq Hakak.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair and honorable committee members.
Good morning, Alia. Just bear with us. Members of the committee, any questions for Alia? I see none. Alia, are you aware of the urban forestry conditions on this application, and do you have any concerns with those?
No concerns.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, if there are no questions or comments, can I please have a motion? Member Saeed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a pretty straightforward case. There are 2 minor variances attached to that, mainly about the building length, which is 4 meter. Yeah. So I believe this variance is minor. I move the motion for approval of item number 8, subject to the urban forestry conditions.
May I have a seconder, please? Member M.
Once again, just adding to Member Saeed's motion, I do feel that this is, although it's a little bit of a larger extension to the building length, it does seem appropriate as it does line up with the existing building envelopes of its neighboring properties. And I am therefore supportive of the approval, subject to the urban forestry commission review.
Okay. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application has been approved subject to conditions of urban forestry. Thank you. All right, we now move to item number 9. Item number 9 is for 2380 and 2382 Kingston Road, but there are speakers listed on this application, so we will hold down this item and come back to this. So item 9 is being held for discussion. Item number 10 is for 91 Watson Street. Committee has received a staff report from Community Planning that is recommending refusal. So we are going to hold down this item and come back to it for further discussion with the applicant. May I request committee members to mute their speakers if they're not speaking? There's a bit of a feedback that we're receiving. Thank you. Item number 10 is being held for further discussion. Item number 11 is for 825 Passmore Avenue. And we have the applicant, San Mahendran. Okay, San, you're with us?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, I'm here.
Good morning. Members of the committee, we have San here, who's the applicant on the application. Any questions for San? This is 825 Passmore Avenue. I see none. Okay, may I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the project has been reviewed both by the Community Planning, Transportation Services, I don't see any conditions to that. I am willing to second the motion for approval without any conditions.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application's been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Item number 12, 7 Brayburn Boulevard. And we have Peter Justin as the owner and Elena Lacheva as the agent. I don't know who's going to be speaking here. Who do we have here? Peter?
I am Peter Justin here.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Peter. Just bear with me. Members of the committee, any questions for Peter? And before I do, Peter, you realize there are conditions of urban forestry. Are you aware of those conditions and do you have any concerns with it?
Sorry. Your Honor, you are talking to me?
Yes, I'm asking you, Peter. There are conditions that are recommended from urban forestry, conditions number 2 and 3. Do you have any concerns with those conditions?
No, madam.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, any questions? I see none. There are no questions. Please go ahead. I would like to have a motion, please. Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Peter, for acknowledging that you understand the urban forestry condition number 2 and urban forestry condition number 3. There are 2 variances attached for this application, and Madam Chair, I feel these variances are minor and appropriate development. I therefore put forward motion for approval of item number 12, subject to the urban forestry condition 2 and 3.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Gary, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'll second that motion to approve.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application's approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and all members for your support, and very grateful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 13 is 30 Freeman Street. And we have Rizard DeBoss with us.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Good morning, Rizard. So I see you're back on this application. Are you aware of the conditions of urban forestry?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. We did receive a copy of the previous decision and then we've seen the new notice as well. And the application has been significantly modified since the first submission or the decision on the previous application. So that's great. Members of the committee, any questions for Rizard? Member Macaulay.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I note that the adjacent neighbor has questioned whether you can preserve a couple of the trees. The major oak tree and the in the front yard and the mature tree. Have you spoken to the neighbor and have you prepared a forestry report as yet?
We have not yet. We're still going to go through the application with the forestry department. The letter was given to me yesterday, so I really haven't had time to address it, but I know that we are going to address anything to do with forestry through the process.
So,
Given the concern, are you attempting to preserve that tree?
Whatever we could preserve, we are attempting to. But we'll deal with it when the process during the forestry, because we won't get the permit unless forestry grants us the process to go through, right? So we are willing to do anything we can to preserve any trees on that property. But whatever is in the boundaries, then we are going to talk to forestry, see what their perspective is on it, to see what we shall preserve or not preserve, and then replant if anything in order to sustain this building permit.
Through you, Madam Chair, there are the two urban forestry conditions, number 1 and 2, associated with applications for permits to remove any trees. So I would think that through those two permit processes, that everything would be done in
yes.
accordance with.
That is
Yeah.
correct. That is correct. So the conditions of urban forestry number 2 and 3 relate to permits to injure or remove a privately owned tree. And then condition number 3 is any payment in lieu of any tree that has to be removed for the existing street tree. So yes, those conditions have been acknowledged by the applicant, and he has no concerns. And we heard that they're willing to work with the urban forestry in preserving trees on the property, and whatever needs to be removed will have to be compensated for.
Because really, we need to be looking at the two variances before us, which are both nominal in terms of an actual deviation from the bylaw. I appreciate that, people don't like trees removed, but, our job here is today to look at the variances and whether they're appropriate. So I think we should be moving forward with the decision to not continue to hold down this item.
Let's leave it at that.
Thank you. Thank you for your opinion. My question was really to find out whether the applicant has already addressed the issue of the tree, bearing in mind that the neighbor has raised it. I do know that before he gets a building permit, he will have to address it to the satisfaction of the forestry department, and therefore I am prepared to recommend approval of this variance.
Okay. So can I have a motion, Member M? Sorry, Member Macaulay?
Yeah. Or Member Ann.
And I put forth a motion to approve this application subject to forestry concerns or satisfying the forestry concerns.
Subject to
The
the conditions
application is
of,
minor and
okay, so subject to the conditions of urban forestry, you have a motion to approve the application. Okay.
correct.
Can I have a seconder? Member M, please go ahead.
I second the motion of approval subject to urban forestry conditions number 1 and 2.
It's number 2 and 3, Member M.
Oh, sorry, number
Yeah.
2 and 3.
So just going forward, all you got to say is just second the motion so that we're not conflicting any information there. All right, so we have a seconder, and all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application's been approved subject to conditions of urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. So moving to item 14, I note this is item 14 is 37 Hill Crescent, and I note that there are several speakers on this application. So we are going to hold down item number 14 and come back to it for further discussion. Item number 15 is for 50 Darlingside Drive, and we have the agent with us, Vivek Gupta.
Hello, how are you, sir? Good morning. This is Vivek Gupta.
Good morning, Vivek. So just bear with us. Vivek, we have received a staff report from Community Planning, and they have recommended a condition of approval. Have you read the report, and are you aware of the condition?
Yes, ma'am. I'm aware of the condition and we agree to comply with those conditions.
Okay, you have no questions or concerns with the proposed recommendation?
I have no questions, madam.
Okay, perfect. And I also just want to confirm if there were any conditions of urban forestry. I see None? All right. Members of the committee, any questions for Vivek? Okay, if there are no questions for Vivek, please, can I have a motion? Member M, please go ahead.
For you, Madam Chair, I put forward a motion of approval for item number 15 to construct a new rear yard addition, subject to the community planning conditions, tying the construction to the design.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion for approval, subject to the condition mentioned there.
Okay, all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application has been approved. Thank you.
Very much.
You're welcome. So item 15 has been dealt with. We now move to item 16, and item 16 is 20 Chichester Place. And do we have the agent Jan with us?
Yes, good morning. This is Jan Teamstra.
Good morning, Jan. Thank you very much. Just bear with me for a second. Just want to check if there are any conditions. I see no conditions. For record, we did receive a letter of support from Councillor Nick Mantas on this application. Members of the committee, any questions for Jan? Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A very quick question from Mr. Jen. You are asking for the additional GFA for the day nurseries. And I just want to be clear that the allowed GFA for the day nursery is 140 square meter, which is already used by you. You are asking in addition to that. So actually, it is not only 308 square meter, but the total GFA is going to be, the total impact is going to be 448 square meter. Is I am reading it correctly?
No, the square footage is the 308 total, 308.82 square meters is the total square meters. It's an existing daycare. It's been run for about 30 years. And so the new owners want to expand it to the classrooms across the hallway.
So it's
Okay,
the
got it. So
308 is the total of existing and proposed.
Yes, the allowable was 140, which was on the development when they did the apartment building.
Correct.
And so they wanted to increase it for a new daycare for 308 square meters.
Ahmed, how the bylaw is written is a max, right? So they would not be able to propose an additional 308. It would have to be whatever the totality is. The bylaw looks at it as a cap. So 308.82 is the maximum that's going to be allowed per this variance. So that is both the existing and the new inclusive.
Correct.
Member Said, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry for that. So the difference between 140 and 308 is 268. So that is the one you are asking for this time, right, Jen?
Well, that's the addition, but we have
That is
to.
the addition you are requesting for in this application, right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay,
So we have to look
perfect.
at it as a total. That's
Perfect.
correct.
Thank you very much. So in that, if that is the case, I believe this is a minor variance, and Madam Chair, I am willing to
Before
support
you
the
do,
application.
before you do, I have a couple of hands raised. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you. Mike, I was just going to give a clarification that the total size of the building, the total gross floor area of the building does not change. It's just the use of the building for the daycare. So I am satisfied with the questions.
Okay, Member M, please go ahead.
I would also just like to quickly state that, you know, this is a type of service that is in high need, high demand. There's a lot of people, young families, including myself with young children, who find difficulty having childcare. And so I'm very supportive of this additional community service that is always well needed in areas with residential uses. So I'm very supportive of this application.
Thank you, Member M. So can we go back to to Member Said, who wanted to put forward a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for adding all these input from the members as well as from the applicant. It's very clear. I am supportive to that. The variance is minor and very appropriate. So, Madam Chair, I move the motion for approval of item 16, and there are no conditions attached to this application.
Thank you very much. Member Macaulay.
I will second that motion.
All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we now go to item 17. Can we have, and this is 59 Malta Avenue, can we have Jonathan Biskowski, please?
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Jonathan. Before we proceed, members of the committee, any questions for Jonathan? Member M, please go ahead.
I would like to hold this item down unless I could, like, is there any other speakers for this item? I don't want to overly delay the cause, but
There are no speakers on this.
I see this Louisa, but we don't know whether she's in opposition or support.
Through the chair, you may wish to check to, actually, I'm assuming that you could check, Ali, can you just check if she's registered or she's signed in? Can you
Okay,
just,
so let me
can you check the position?
Can we have Louisa, please?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I had to unmute my mic.
No problem. So Louisa, are you here in support or in opposition to this application?
Well, I'm the neighbor of 59 Malta Street. I'm on the side of the variance of number 7, where you're putting the
Okay.
entranceway to the
Okay.
backyard,
I see
literally on
you've-
my property line.
Okay, and I see you've submitted the written submission. So, okay, so now we understand. So,
Correct, I have.
so we are going to hold down this item because we want to hear from you as well as Member M has some questions. So, Jonathan, 59 Malta, your application's going to be held for further discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Going to item number 18, which is the last item for this time slot. Item 18 is 10 Ridwin Avenue or Ridwin Avenue. And we have Jesse MacArthur. Jesse,
Morning, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. I'm present.
good morning. Thank you, Jesse. Members of the committee, are there any questions for Jesse? I see none. Jesse, do you have any comments at this time?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, I see you have no questions. If there are none, then can I have a motion? Member M, please go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I put forward a motion of approval for item number 18 to facilitate a new two-story dwelling front in rear addition. I don't believe there's any conditions. There was a letter of support as well as another forestry ravine report, sorry. Only just for information purposes.
Okay, thank you. So there are no conditions there, and we have a motion of approval. Can I have a seconder, please? Member Gary, please go ahead. Gary, you're on mute. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry, Madam Chair. I second that motion to approve that application.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So that brings us to the end of the agenda for the morning session, and I would like to recap the items that were held. So just correct me if I'm wrong. Starting from item 2, item 3, item 9, item 10, item 14, item 17,
Through the chair, that's correct.
and that's about it.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, so let's start with the first item that was held, and this is item number 2. Can we have Alfred Zito, please? Okay, and
Madam Chair?
yes, so we can hear you. Just bear with me. And Alex Chen and Jeronim, please tune in. We will come to you in a moment. So Alfred, how would you like to begin? Would you like to make a presentation, or would you like to get into the questions?
Yes, I would like to begin by saying that I would suggest to the committee that the art school that Jenny Lee operated in this Oriental Center is a welcoming use and compatible use to the center. We have a lot of support letters from neighboring units. I'll be happy to listen to the speakers who have any comments, objections, and see if we can try to resolve them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alfred. Members of the committee, any questions for Alfred at this time? Member Gary, please go ahead.
Yes, there was one complaint along the lines that the art school did not have a sink, and I could see that raised some practical problems in terms of brushes and painting. Is there any ability to change that situation and to install a sink?
Yes.
Go
May I
ahead.
speak, Madam Chair?
Yeah, go ahead. Please
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes. This is a technical issue. I'm the architect for this center some years ago, and I don't see any technical problems to install a sink, if that's what's required for the approval.
Could you speak a bit louder, Alfred? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you well.
Yeah, my apologies. There's no technical problems for us to install a sink.
Okay. Member Gary, does that answer your question?
Well, would he agree to a condition if committee sees fit to approve this variance application? Would he agree to a condition along the lines of installing a sink within 9 months or 1 year?
Yes, we do.
Through the chair, I believe that might be outside of the jurisdiction of the committee. Because there's no way that that condition can be cleared.
I think it's not just that it's outside of the jurisdiction. I think it's probably not enforceable.
Correct.
Yeah. So Gary,
through the chair, these matters would be addressed through the building permit process. OBC, Ontario Building Code.
Okay. So Gary, any comment?
I think it could be a relevant condition, but I agree that enforcement in terms of by the city or understanding that it's done, I agree that that's an issue or problem there. So I'll withdraw that condition.
Okay, but what if that condition is tied to the building permit?
Well, again, this is
An OBC. Yeah.
It's an OBC thing, so it's almost Toronto buildings. If they require it, they won't issue the permit until it's been installed.
Okay. Thank you. Member Gary, you wanted to say something?
No, I'll leave it there, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I don't have anything further.
Okay, thank you very much, Gary. All right, members, any more questions?
I believe we held this because there were two speakers in
I know.
opposition.
I know. I just want to make sure no one else had any question. Okay, I will come to the speakers for sure. Okay, so I take there are no further questions, so let's come to the speakers. So Alex Chan, who's the Director of Toronto Standard Condominium Corporation number 1644. Alex, you're with us?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
Madam Chair and member of the committee. My name is Alex Chan. I'm the director with the Toronto Standard Condominium Corporation 1644. That's the condominium corporation at the set address. I mean, once we are aware of this application, we have done a survey with our unit owners and our tenants. Our concerns are pretty much summarized in a way that the unit is not equipped to be an art school at the moment because it doesn't have its own in-unit water supplies and also in-unit faucets and sink. Because of that, the art school has to carry water in and out by buckets through the common area, and water has been frequently spilled on the hallway, and this create a hazard for our patron, for our unit owner tenants and patrons. Also, it has a potential potential impacts on our insurance premiums, and because the art school has no sink and drain within the unit, the student after session they have to go to use in our public washroom and use the sinks to wash their hands, and we see campaigns by the cleaners and by the other unit owners. They left a mess within the public washrooms. So this is our major concerns. But over the year, we have been talking to this unit owner many times, and he verbally has agreed to install a sink and faucet, but he has not done so. She has not done so over all these years. So, and also I talked to her personally. She was saying that she will do, but the second day when other people talked to her again, she says she will not. So I'm not sure what we can do, because as mentioned, we're not in a position to push her to install in units faucet and sinks. So I would like to see how this committee or this process can help us address our concern. That's our issues and concerns. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Alex? Okay, I see none. All right, Alex, thank you. We will request Alfred, when we come to him, to respond to your concerns and see if there's a resolution on this issue. Thank you. Member M.
Through you, Madam Chair, is there any sort of document in which Alfred could commit to the installation of a sink to his, that's not necessarily anything to do with our committee, but if they work together to put out an agreement to understand that he will put in a sink at a certain period of time, is that something that we can get Alfred to agree to do on behalf of Alex?
Sure. So when the applicant or Alfred, when he comes up, we can certainly ask that question. No problem.
Because what I think is, as long as it's covered in our meeting minutes, while we cannot impose a condition because that's sort of outside of our jurisdiction, there is still going to be record of this discussion through our meeting minutes, and that should be enough to show our intention that we would like to see this issue resolved despite it not being within our jurisdiction.
Okay, I'll ask staff for their comments. Staff?
Just through the chair, it will be reflected in the recording, not necessarily the minutes, but the recording is a public record, which is a legacy.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I'm satisfied with that answer.
Okay, but we can certainly discuss it with Alfred when we come to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on, can we have Jeronim Dermishi, please? Jeronim.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead, and you have 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief and short. I'm just gonna echo what Alex just said. My main concern is the water supply line, right? We've had many other unit owners who have made application to the CD to get a permit to install things for different, like for hairdresser or for other services, and we've had no issues with them getting the approval, and off they go with their business. But in this instance, it's just promises and promises verbally, but nothing has been seen in actual fact. So we haven't seen any commitment by the unit owner. If the unit owner was still or was insistent to have this art school open, then to my understanding, it should have gone to the city, get the application just like the other unit owners, come to us with a city permit, and it was going to be just an easy business, right? Just like we used to do with the other stores. So it's becoming more complicated. So that's where the trust has been not built by us, by the board members as well, and that's where we're having this issue. And when we lose, it's more of a trust matter. So that's why I conclude if we have something in writing or commitment, that might be something that the board will consider. However, this is priority number one for us. The water supply line, and in the mall, if you see people there with buckets and water going up and down the hallway, and they might be slippery hazard, right? We are facing liabilities with other, pedestrians in the area. So it becomes a complicated matter. So that's why we need to get that sink installed, and then yes, we can do something about it and help them out. So that's what I want to emphasize a little bit more on this instance. That's all.
Okay,
Thank
so
you, everyone.
I have a question for you, Geronim. So we
Yep.
will certainly ask this of Alfred as well. But you mentioned that you've had discussions with the with the persons, and they've kind of ignored or they have not listened to you. Is it because there's no possibility to install a sink in the unit, or is it because they just don't want to?
I will to help other residents when they were asking for these, bumps on the roads. I've been there with them. I've helped them with drawings, with permits, with pictures of the blueprintings, mechanical drawings, and whatever question they had or their engineer had, I've been there to help them. So I can confirm that. And the only unit owners can confirm that as well, that has been a fact. It's not just what I'm telling you right now verbally, right? So that actually happened. In this instance, we haven't had that approach. That's the problem. We were there to help.
Okay, all
and
right.
I'll be the first one to help out. I'm an artist myself. I've been in art school myself, right? So I know what it means to be an artist. So don't quote me on that. It's just that it's more of the acceptance, anyhow.
No, it totally makes sense. No problem. We'll certainly discuss it with Alfred. As you saw,
Thank
this
you.
is something that we are also considering. So, Member Macaulay, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question, and it maybe to this gentleman or to Alfred. Who is actually representing the art school? Is it Alfred that's representing the art school as the applicant here?
Yes.
Or
It's Alfred who is the
then
agent on the application. Though the two speakers who spoke are representing the condo corporation for this building.
I understand that. I'm asking, Alfred said that he was the architect for this building originally, and I want to know whether he is also representing or did represent the condo corporation when the building was built, or is he just representing the art school, and why we don't have anyone from the art school representing or commenting on their proposed questions?
We can ask Alfred when it's his time. So just park your question for a moment. When we get to Alfred, we'll ask that question. Okay? The way I see it, the listed agent on this application representing the art school is Alfred. But we will come to Alfred and we will get that confirmation. Thank you. Any questions for Geronimo? Sorry, for Geronim. Okay, I see none. Thank you, Geronim. We will come, we'll let you know if you have any further questions of you. Okay, so can we have Alfred back, please? Hi, Alfred.
Hi.
Hi. So, Alfred,
you
you
for-
heard the comments, the sink being the biggest concern here, or the installation of sink. What are your comments on this?
Yes, it would appear that the speakers in objection are not objecting to the actual use of the arts class.
Correct.
The main concern is that there's a deficiency of a sink where the student can wash their hands and wash their hands and don't go to the public washrooms.
Correct.
Now, I have been, I do represent the owner, Jenny Lee, of art classes, and I have spoken to her while this was going on, and I can say that on her behalf, we'll be happy to install a sink. And what I can do is this: I know that this is outside the jurisdictions of the committee, but what I'll be happy to do, if it's acceptable to the committee, is that I will write a letter on behalf of the owner to the condo board to say that we will install a sink in 9 months. I hope that will be satisfactory to the committee.
Okay, so that is certainly satisfactory to the committee, and I don't think we need to include that as a condition that that letter be provided, because again, it comes to the enforceability of it. But as long as it's recorded somehow through the proceedings here, and we have a commitment from the applicant here, I think we should be satisfied.
That's correct. Again, it's outside of the committee's jurisdiction. This is a private agreement between the condo corp and the applicant.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right. So I think that is quite refreshing and it's good to hear that. Now, Member Macaulay or Member M, I know you had some questions or clarification. Member Macaulay, go ahead.
I just want to get confirmation from Alfred that he feels he has the authority to ensure that the school will provide a sink, that he's actually representing them.
I think we heard that, Member Macaulay. He is representing the unit owner who is proposing the art school, and he has agreed on behalf of the applicant or the owner that the sink will be installed, and within he's committed to writing a letter to the condo corporation confirming that a sink will be installed in 9 months.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for reiterating that comment.
Okay, thank you.
May I add one comment?
Please.
Yes.
Member Macaulay, thank you for remembering me. We probably did the center some years ago. But yes, I would be happy to and be willing to committed to write a letter to the condo board that on behalf of the owner we will install a sink within 9 months. Now, subject to of course, we need a building permit, subject to pulling a permit from Scarborough to do the sink.
Okay. All right. So that's a
Thank
private
you.
agreement. That's a private agreement or a private commitment that you've made. And the committee, as we mentioned, does not have the jurisdiction to impose that as a condition, but we have it on record here that you've committed to doing that. Okay. Any more questions of Alfred?
All I wanted to say is that I'm satisfied and that I do note that Alfred has signed the application form, so he therefore is authorized to represent the owner. So with that, I'm prepared to put forward a motion.
Please go ahead.
If committee members are ready.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't see any hands raised, so please go ahead.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, I put forward a motion of approval. There are no conditions as per our materials. For item number 2, to permit a commercial art school within the existing building.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. After having this deliberation among the committee member and the applicant, I am quite satisfied and I second the motion for approval.
All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. All right, so we now go to our next item, item number 3, which is 8450 Shepherd Avenue East. And we have the architect, Christina Grimes. Is Christina with us? Perfect. Christina.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Christina. So I know this item was held because Member Said had requested for a brief presentation, but I also see Member Macaulay raising her hand, so I'm going to go to her. Member Macaulay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe I received an email from the city saying that the zoning examiner has determined that a community arena is not a permitted use as a park. And therefore, I was expecting to see a request that this application be deferred so that it could be amended to include a community center as part of the use. I was unable or unaware that there was going to be an opportunity to ask this question previously, but I think before we proceed, we need to clarify that the use is permitted. It wasn't it wasn't a part of the notice that it is a variance for a community center.
And it's
Madam Chair, perhaps you that.
Yes,
memo.
so
Number one and
hang on, Member M, you got to raise your hand first because I get a lot of feedback. I apologize, but I do, clearly. So Member Macaulay, you have a question and you want some clarification. I want to ask staff to clarify that for me in terms of the use, and then Member M, I will come to you.
Through the chair, the minor variance is the recreation center and day nursery are currently not permitted in the zoning bylaw, and the variance is to add those two uses as permitted uses,
Which is reflected in variance number
which is reflected in variance
One,
number
two.
number one.
number one. Perfect. Does that satisfy your question? Or that address your question, Member Macaulay? Can't hear
Yes,
you. Yeah.
to
Can't hear you, Member Macaulay.
can you hear me now?
Please, go ahead.
Okay. All I wanted was to clarify the community center, the approval of the community center as a use is part of the application that we have before us.
That is correct. There's a staff report that was submitted to us for our review. Have you had a chance to look at that, Member Macaulay?
Yes, I did take a look at that staff report. The concern that I had, it was a good report. I appreciate the amount of work that went in. The concern I had was the added item that was sent to us just recently, stating that the zoning officials have determined that a community center is not a park use. And therefore, if it is to be approved, the variance has to approve a community center as well as the parking and the other issues.
No, the recreation. Go ahead, Member M.
So I think we're kind of going in circles here, but it's very
Yes.
clear in the notice that variance number one and variance number two is asking permission to allow a recreation center within this zone category. So I think we can put that one to bed.
Does that address your question, Member Macaulay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now if we have sorted out the permissions question, maybe proceed with a presentation from the architect, Christina Grimes.
Okay, hi everyone. And will someone be sharing the presentation?
Yes, let me check. Katrine, would you be sharing the presentation? Give her a second, she's working on it.
Okay.
You can't share?
Waiting for the PDF to come up.
Yeah, so Katrine's just having a little technical glitch. Give her a moment, please.
Okay.
So who will share then, Katrine? Ali, can you share, please? Okay, yeah, take your time. So Christina, we're having a little technical glitch, so we're just checking with other staff member if they can share the screen.
Okay, thank you.
Katrine, you had it up for I would say a second. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. So Ali is trying.
I do believe the presentation was on the AIC as well, so
You're right.
hopefully other panel members would have already seen this presentation.
Yes, you're correct.
I liked the renderings; they were quite pretty.
Thank you. We've worked really hard on them.
Yeah,
I
it looks
can
very
see
good.
that.
Yeah. Ali is trying diligently. Give him a minute. It's a great project.
I hope it is coming up because this is such a good presentation. I really wanted to have it, right? It's a lot of amount of work has been there and yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
we're-
even this area doesn't have a community like a really good community center.
Yeah, this is quite a good modern approach. And you know what, the beautiful thing in this project, I was looking at these studies, they have looked into the future prospects too,
Ali is trying
right?
to connect.
Yeah.
Just hold on to your comments.
Mohammed, if this doesn't end up working, do you have any concerns? Is it because there's a reason why we have to have this presentation if we can't actually get the presentation loaded? If it's just to sort of have a better understanding of the project, could she just
I
speak towards
think,
it?
yeah, most of the parts are covered in the presentation, but yes, there could be a further elaboration on that because I take this opportunity with Christina or the project
Yeah.
manager is there.
So
So we
okay,
can
if I would, can I just intervene for a second? We're live here and we should be avoiding any comments until we see it. The question was valid. Mohammed, because we're experiencing technical difficulty, could you, and then we were getting some issues with uploading the presentation. You have a copy of the presentation on the agenda. Maybe we can start the conversation with asking questions of Christina and refer to a particular slide that you already have in your package. It just in the interest of time.
Perfect. So can I, Madam Chair, can I come directly? It's not a question, it could be a question too. Can I come directly to the questions
Yes,
if you allow
please.
me for that?
That's what I'm
Okay.
asking you to do is just ask the
Okay.
question and Christina can answer those questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Christina, for your patience and you have been here. Yes, the project document, I mean, the design and architectural side as well as the planning side is wonderful. At the outset, I must acknowledge that. Coming towards because the entire data and the entire development is based on the data which is obtained from the York Center, and that is the apex, and that is the proxy site selected to get the data and to feed it in this particular project.
Are you referring to
As a
traffic data, Mohammed?
Yes, both the
Okay.
traffic data and the topography or the geography of the area, which is, and as a project manager, they did a very good job developing a lot of resemblance between the York Center and this new development, which is a very good effort. I understand that, but at back of my mind, I need some further input from you. Yes, there are 80% resemblance, but there are certain factors, certain parameters are there which are not resembling to this part of the Scarborough. And I will come to that, both the external factors and the internal. The external could be as far as the comparison of the intersections are concerned, all right? In Scarborough, we are talking about the Shepherd Avenue, Morningside Avenue, and the Collins Road or Rouge River Road. So these are the instructions, the traffic flow is there. How it is matching with the intersections or the signals or the stop signs right at the York Center. You know, first of all, I will say there is a distance. Thank you for bringing up this. So should I continue, Madam Chair,
Yes,
or
you can
we wait
go.
for the present?
You can continue because you were in the middle of a long
Okay,
question.
thank you. So Christina, my question is that there is a distance factor involved between these two. That is one of the major factor. It's about 25 kilometer apart. The proxy data taken from a place with a different development, different intersection, with a different traffic flow is going to be copied in the Scarborough region with the different intersections there. Right, and I was looking at how much signals timings are there, or taking a right turn may take less than 5 seconds, which may not be the reality in that case. So looking at the topography or the developments in the area, so how you elaborate on that point with the selection of the proxy site for generation of this data?
Well, the selection of the proxy sites happens in collaboration with, transportation and city planning. We did a back and forth when we were developing the parks and traffic needs report. Our traffic consultant thought York was a good representative. They also looked at other representative sites. And then they look at the future transit that is expected along Shepherd Avenue, that's expected in this area. They look at demographics, and then it's not a perfect science. There's no perfect place that represents exactly what this facility will be in this location, but they do estimates based off the traffic counts at these proxy sites to estimate what is a good parking number for this site. And it's something that's not done in isolation. This site is quite limited in access. It's quite limited in size. There's TRCA setback on the west edge. There's park program and a community center. So we're balancing the needs of the community center, the park program requested by the community with the parking needs. And this, through consultation with planning and transportation, felt like the best balance where it provided adequate space, parking for the facility, while also meeting the needs of the building itself and the program. So it is a balancing act with the data to support it from the other York location.
Thank you, Christina, and I will continue on that. These were the external typography and geography, and you said this is the best match. It's not these, may not be the perfect one, but this is going to be a best match. Coming towards the internal between these, let's compare the two facilities. Even they are different in size. If you look at the square meter of the York Center, that is about 6,000 square meter. Over here, including both the community center and the daycare, the square meters are more than 7,000, which is again, it's a lot of difference, right? The size of the facilities. In York Center, again, even if their size is small, the parking rate applied is higher than the parking rate which is proposed for the new building. The number of parking at the York Center is like 189. They have 2 lots there. Over here, the parking rate used is low, and the number of parking is recommended finally is 100 from 145 to 140. So again, internally speaking, the facility, I'm not talking about like there is no daycare center in the York Center, right? That's another difference. Still, like these differences, and I just want to hear from you how have you taken note of these differences while taking these data?
Yeah, in terms of how in the parking study where they're looking at the proxy sites, you're getting a parking rate, and then you're applying that rate to the area of the building. And then with the addition of the childcare center, we look at times of usage. So the high point and high usage of a childcare center is different from a recreation center. Their peaks and access points come at different times. So you can offset parking rates for those two programs because there's not usually an overlap in terms of their peak parking moments, let's say. So kind of all these factors, it's you look at York and the other facilities as your starting point and to see what rates have been done, what parking rates have been done per square foot. And then you start to apply that to your building and you work in with your planning and transportation consultations. What are the other factors at play here? What's the use of this building? What's the community access? And so again, it's been 2 years of extensive consultation with the city planning and transportation who have worked with us to sign off on this parking count.
Okay, thank you, Christina.
Through that spirit process.
No, I appreciate the explanation. Member Said, I think the explanation was provided, and we have a very, very comprehensive traffic report. This has been reviewed by city staff for quite some time now. So I'm going to leave it at that. I know we had two hands raised. I'm going to start with Member Macaulay first because I saw her hand raised first, and then Member M, I will come to you for sure. Member Macaulay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you. And thank you, Member Side, for raising the issue. I spent a lot of time looking at the traffic report for this. Like the other members, I recognize that this area Rouge is very isolated and lacks community facilities. So I'm happy to see that we're getting community facilities here. I looked at the report and wondered whether 145 parking spaces really is sufficient, but I'm going to trust the transportation planners in this case because I don't know. And I think over time, this area will be inundated with cars coming into this parking lot, and how that's going to work, I don't know, but I'm not the expert. I'm going to rely on the experts. The other thing that I looked at very carefully, and I want to voice my appreciation for, is that the parking spaces and the application is for 140 spaces. So having gone through all the reductions, I was wondering how we got to the 140. I read the transportation plan that said they are reducing the 5 to what you call a real trans operation. I felt in the overall scheme of things, that was a good trade-off. And I want to express my appreciation to transportation planning for providing that additional information as to how we got 140 parking spaces. That's all I have to say, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Macaulay. Member M, please go ahead.
I can't help but just be frustrated with this whole discussion. I'm really sorry and I apologize. It's just that none of us here are transportation specialists. None of us here can get onto a witness stand and say what is appropriate or what is not appropriate from a traffic impact study or a parking place. And in fact, these proxy sites and the selection of these proxy sites have been in consultation with city transportation staff that have signed off on these locations. Nothing is always going to be apples to apples, but with those proxy sites, they add that plus their own site-specific minutia to their analysis to make it applicable. It's not just a copy and paste of what happened at York to over here. And like, we're kind of clouding our judgment of this overall big picture that is trying to be achieved by the city here by fighting over this parking stuff where two different sets of professionals have said it's okay. And the fact, if we're gonna put put an obstacle at this, over a few parking spaces is just beyond me. What do you expect them to do? To eat into existing park space? You would rather see them pave over park space to add in extra parking for cars? Like that to me is just ridiculous. And I'm really sorry, but this has really struck me because I take this as a personal area. I live in this part of Scarborough, and I've been very much looking forward to a new facility that will eventually replace some of the really old facilities that are closer to us. And if it's going to be put into an obstacle over something like a parking requirement that has been very well vetted by professionals, which we are not, I mean, I'm just, I'm about to
Okay,
throw
I
in the
appreciate
towel. I'm
that, Member
sorry.
M. I appreciate that. Thank you. We all look forward to this project, and I think members were just trying to flush out some details. I agree. We have
Let's
have
not,
these
focus on the big
discussions.
picture
We
is
can
what I'm
have
trying
these
to say.
discussions within reason, and that's what we're trying to do right now. Member Said,
I'm just saying,
we're
not
just
lose
okay.
the big picture.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your comments, Member M. I'm sorry if this was a frustrating discussions for you, but our intention, our member and intention is, again, like we said, this project is a wonderful project. We are fully supportive of that, and perhaps we were having good information from the team who are here since morning, so we are getting more information to that. And thank you, Madam Chair, for your support too. I don't want to comment on that further, but I have a question, last question from Christina. As I mentioned in the very beginning, that the good thing in this report, which I don't see in many of the traffic studies, that there is a future projections, and they have looked into what future developments are going to take place in this area, and they have taken into consideration those factors. So, which is a very good up to 2023. Christina, have you considered that in the future there are two LRTs are coming there in the area? I mean, maybe in the next 10 years, there is blueprint is available, but whatever.
I
And that
think
would be having
Mohammed, if I may just interject here, I think that's going beyond the jurisdiction of this committee. We are not, we're not, we're only looking at the three variances that are before us. We should not be talking about mega planning projects here. This is not under the purview of this committee. I appreciate your concern, and I appreciate your involvement and engagement, but we need to focus on the scope of this application. This is not a planning committee. This is a committee of adjustment dealing with a minor variance that's before us. So I really want to emphasize that. Getting into LRT discussions and whatnot, honestly, we shouldn't even be talking about those things because we don't have all the information. So let's focus on the variances. You have a traffic report, you had some questions, you got your answers. We need to move on. Okay, I apologize, but I will have to, as a chair, I would have to cut down because we need to move forward with this application, whatever the decision's made. Okay, thank you very much. Any other
I agree,
comment?
Madam Chair.
Okay,
Yes.
any other comment? I see none. All right. If there are no further comments, can I please have a motion on this application? Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I mentioned, I am very supportive. I am very happy for this project, Madam Chair, and I am outrightly for the support of this project. I move the motion for approval of this application, and there are no conditions attached to that.
Thank you. All, seconder, please. Member Macaulay. Please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I will second that motion.
All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We now go to the next item that was held, and this is item number 9. Item number 9 is for 2380 and 2382 Kingston Road. And we have the applicant or the agent with us. We have two actually listed. I don't know who's going to be speaking. We have Sean McGaffey and we have Finlay McEwen. So we have Sean.
Hi, good morning, Madam Chair. This is Sean McGaffey speaking. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So you're going to be the speaker for this application?
That's correct. I will be speaking on behalf of Mr. McEwen as the owner of the site.
That is correct. Okay, perfect. That is correct. Okay, and I just want to make sure all the speakers who have registered to please tune in. We'll come to you when your time comes up. So, members of the committee, we have Sean with us. Sean, would you like to make a presentation or would you start with the questions?
I would just like to take a few minutes and just outline a couple concerns that we've read in some of the communications that have been submitted, and as well as speak in support of the staff recommendations on the file.
Okay, perfect. So you have 5 minutes and your time starts now. Please go ahead.
So with that, if I could ask that page 9 of the city planning staff report be put up on the screen, please. And in the meantime, just a brief introduction. My name is Mr. McGaffey. I'm a senior land use planner with the firm of W&D Associates. And I'm assisting the owners of this site and the neighboring site at 2450 Kingston Road. This project before you today proposes 39 rental apartment units in a 6-story building along Kingston Road on a site that's presently used for surface parking. There is no variance associated with the proposed height of 6 stories, and there is no variance associated with the proposed density of the building. So that I just wanted to clarify that, because there has been some concerns from the community about the height and the quantum of development on this site. But you'll see that the variance associated with height here is for that very, very minor encroachment of the rear parapet wall alongside the line you see there in blue, which is the 45-degree angular plane. What we're really discussing here is a matter of centimeters of encroachment into that angular plane. And I mentioned 2450 Kingston Road as a sister application with this. 2450 Kingston Road is proposed to be redeveloped with a condominium building and presently contains 10 affordable rental apartments. The reason you see this application coming forward before you today in advance of that one is that the idea developed with city planning and the housing staff is that this building will be constructed prior to the demolition of 2450, so that residents are able to seamlessly transition into these new rental replacement units. The 10 units proposed as rental replacement are considered affordable by the city and will be secured through our rental housing demolition application that is also currently under review. And you see the conditions associated with that in the city planning staff report. So I've touched on the height. One of the other variances that has been addressed by some members of the community is the parking. There are 11 parking spaces proposed for these 39 units, one of which is a car share. And reviewing the transportation staff report that was submitted this morning, I can confirm my client is accepting of their proposed condition as well, that we allocate one of the 11 spaces for visitor use. We are fine to implement that, and as noted in their report, we are happy to address that through the accompanying site plan application that is currently on file with the city. In terms of amenity space, we are seeking relief for the proposed quantum of outdoor amenity space and soft landscaping area. In order to mitigate some of the effect of a reduced outdoor amenity space area, there is an oversupply of indoor amenity proposed for residents in the amount of approximately 30 square meters. So that's 30 square meters over and above the minimum indoor amenity requirement will be provided to sort of mitigate the outdoor amenity. The bicycle parking spaces, again, this is a sort of technicality of the way the older Scarborough bylaw works in this area, and that we are proposing the required 6 short-term bicycle parking spaces, but they will be located on a new landscaped bump out in the front of the building on Kingston Road. The long-term bicycle parking spaces are proposed in a staggered configuration within the building for residents. And the Scarborough bylaw at the time when this was amended in 2009 to permit 6-story development didn't plan for stacked bicycle parking spaces like the new citywide bylaw does. And that's why you see a variance associated with that. So with that, I'd just like to sort of close my remarks with that as a planner, I'm comfortable with the proposal before you today, that it satisfies the four tests of a minor variance, and that it maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan and proposes desirable rental housing in an area that is planned for growth in this format by the City of Toronto. It maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and tweaks some regulations to align with the more modernized 569/2013 bylaw. It's appropriate and desirable for the development of land by providing new rental housing and new replacement improved housing for the current residents of 2450 Kingston Road. And these variances are minor in nature, as I've explained through my presentation. So with that, I'm happy to address any comments or questions from members of the committee, and I'll stay on the line.
Thank you very much, Sean. I appreciate your presentation. I do think that this is an important project for the town, and these variances are facilitating that project. We also know that there's an ongoing site plan application with the town and, with the municipality, and there's, I'm sure, enough review and considerations of all these factors that have already been taken care of. We have a comprehensive report on file with us. We have reviewed it, and it was quite a thorough and comprehensive report. And there were some, I believe, there were some conditions that were also recommended by city staff, which we will talk about in a bit. I see Member Macaulay has her hand raised. Member Macaulay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one question of the applicant. This proposal is linked with another proposal for 2446 Kingston Road, where they're proposing to build, I believe, a 10-story apartment building, and that the existing tenant of 2440 will be relocated into 2380 Kingston Road. And that is one of the conditions of approval is the relocation. My question is, what is the status of the 10-story apartment building, the 2446? Is that before planning committee, or is basically what is the status of that? So I have an idea of when is that development to happen, so that this development and the relocation of tenants can occur.
Thank you for that question. I think it's a good one. So I'll clarify, and then I referred to it as 2450 Kingston Road, but you are correct. That is the address range 2446 to 2450. It is an 8-story condominium building that is proposed for that site. I would say it is about 4 months behind where we are today with 2380 Kingston Road. The site plan application is under review by city planning staff. We have done a couple of resubmissions at this point to tweak it and address comments and concerns. And now that we're at a point with that application where there is satisfaction with the built form that is proposed, a minor variance application has been submitted for that property as well. But the timing of how this works is that 2380 Kingston Road is planned to be constructed and finished prior to any demolition on 2446 to 2450, and that way residents of the current rental units at 2446 won't need to find temporary accommodations or have to move twice. This allows them to move directly from the building to be demolished into the replacement building. And that's why you see this building before you today at 2380 is a very efficient built form that is fast to construct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I would just suggest that we focus on the variances that are before us on this application. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I assume at some point this committee will see the variances for 2450. I have no further questions for the applicant. Thank you.
I don't know if that's a fair comment. Maybe they don't need a variance for that. Who knows? So, but I hear you. Member Said, you have a question?
He provided the information about 4 months the application now.
Okay. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mishan, you were mentioning about the variance, which is variance number 145-degree angular plane. While looking at the drawing, it is hardly visible. I can see that if there is a minor adjustment possible there, you can take off this variance, right?
You're certainly correct, Mr. Saeed, and that was my first inkling looking at these plans myself. However, the encroachment is very minor, and that parapet, from my understanding from speaking with the architect, is required to meet OPC requirements. And I briefly touched on that this is a very efficient built form, and you see with these mid-rise built forms that do that sort of stepping, and I realize I'm moving my hands, but you can't see me, is that stepping is very expensive to construct, and the idea behind this is a quick project that can deliver needed housing to these people or to the residents that need to be replaced.
Yeah, you can barely see it on
Thank you.
paper. I don't think you can see it in real time at all.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
It is.
And therefore, there should be like very minimal impact, if any, and it
There's
seems
nothing.
to be more of an architectural thing. And
Correct.
so it's within their right to apply for a variance to this, and it's truly minor considering you can barely even notice it on the drawings. So
Okay.
asking for a revision just doesn't seem reasonable to me.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that comment. Any further questions? We have some speakers who are waiting to speak. Okay, I see none. So if you have any questions, you may just wait until we get to the deliberations. All right, so we are going to start speaking with our speakers here who have registered with us. The first one on the list is Daniela De Luca. Okay, Daniela, staff has advised me that you have not signed in yet. So I'm going to go to the next speaker, who is Joy and Simon Chatfield. Perfect. John? Joy and Simon Chatfield.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we're good. We can hear you well. Please go ahead.
Excellent.
You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. So my name is Joy Chatfield, and I currently reside with my family at 153 McIntosh Street for the last 12 years. Our home is located directly to the north of this proposed development. If the committee could please pull up attachment number 1 from the neighbor's petition letter that shows the proposed development.
Okay, just give us a
Over the
moment.
years, our neighborhood has seen gradual increase in home size throughout the community. Generally, these developments have been done while respecting the general zoning characteristics of the neighborhood. However, this type of development is not desired for our neighborhood and would have detrimental effects on the privacy and enjoyment of our abutting homes. I don't think the presentation's come up, but
Yeah,
could the
so just
committee
just
please
bear with
pull up
me.
attachment?
Sorry, just bear with me
That's
for a
okay.
second. We're trying to get the presentation on the screen.
That's fine. If we could pull up attachment number 2 from the neighbor's
So,
petition.
okay, so which one were you, so it's, we have received letters of opposition and community petition. Which page do you want us to pull up?
Attachment number 1 just shows a photo of the development.
Oh, okay.
But the attachment number 2 from the neighbor's petition
Yes.
shows the neighbors in opposition to the proposed development.
Okay, we can see that. So
Okay.
while we wait for it to be pulled up, we all have it in our agenda and we're looking at it.
Okay,
So we are
great.
looking at attachment number 2, and the pink represents immediate properties in opposition and yellow represent the applicant's property.
Correct.
Okay.
So I am speaking on behalf of the immediate neighbors in opposition, as some neighbors were unable to join the hearing today due to work and personal commitments. As you can see with our neighborhood petition letter, there are 44 individual residents who have signed our letter of objection to this proposal. The letter includes some residents from the neighborhood, but it does include all the surrounding homes of this proposed development. Not only will the massing and towering effect of this proposed 6-story mixed-use development cast a shadow and loom ominously over our adjacent homes, but we feel it will cause further issues with traffic and parking availability in the neighborhood. As for the variances, there are a total of 8 variances for this proposed development, and we believe that they are not minor and that all variances should be refused. Due to the time constraints, I am going to highlight the amenities variances included in the proposal, as this proposed development is an example of overdevelopment for the size and location of the property. So not only will the development have the towering effect and impact on the privacy and enjoyment of the surrounding neighbors, but these variances also show that they are unable to offer adequate amenities to the residents. So variance 3, with the required number of parking spaces, according to the zoning laws, it states that a minimum of 41 parking spaces are required on the site, but a total of only 10 parking spaces and 1 car sharing space will be provided. This variance is not minor, as they will only be offering 27% of the required parking spaces on this site. The addition of such a large number of new residents would only increase the demand for parking in the neighborhood, since not enough parking will be offered for residents, visitors, or the patrons of the retail shops proposed for the site. In the application, there was a traffic study completed, but this was conducted during the early months of the COVID pandemic. So it is not a true reflection of the traffic concerns with this potential development and the impact it will have on the neighborhood. As long-term local residents, we are well aware that there are already constraints with street parking on Kingston Road and the surrounding streets. And the impact will also be felt for those with laneway parking on Sandown Lane, which is the two-way single lane laneway, which is also the proposed site access for the development. So variance number 4 and 5, the bicycle spots, parking spots, according to the zoning bylaws, I know it was stated a minimum of 6 short-term bicycle parking spaces and a minimum of 12 long-term spaces are required on the site. But this proposed development will have no short-term spaces provided on site, but instead are proposing to provide bicycle parking spaces on the already limited space on the public sidewalk in front of the building. Variance number 6, outdoor amenity space. So a minimum of 78 square meters of outdoor amenity space is required by zoning bylaws, but only a total of 47.51 square meters of outdoor amenity space will be provided. This variance is not minor, as it would have 39% less outdoor amenity space than is required. This proposed development is not desirable for the appropriate use of the land, as it does not meet the minimum zoning bylaws for outdoor amenity space. An outdoor space, as we have all learned during this pandemic, is an important factor to human health and well-being. Variance number 7, soft landscaping. So a minimum of 69 square meters of the lot must be maintained as soft landscaping, but only a total of 34 square meters of the lot will be maintained as such. Again, we don't feel that this variance is minor, as it has 51% less soft landscaping than required. This is not desirable for the appropriate use of this land, as it does not meet the
So you have
minimum
30
zoning
seconds
bylaw
left.
and disregards the importance of green space for residents and the surrounding properties. So in conclusion, the proposed development would make an obstruction with such magnitude with respect to privacy and views as to cause an adverse impact upon the abutting neighbors and the surrounding neighborhood. And it is not a desirable development when it cannot conform to the generous bylaws within the city framework. This application does not maintain the intent and purpose of either the official plan or the zoning bylaws. So with this in mind, we join our neighbors and respectfully ask that the Committee of Adjustment to reject this egregious application in its entirety.
Okay,
And I
thank you.
thank you so much for this opportunity to address the committee today.
Thank you very much, Joy, for your time. Appreciate that. Members of the committee, any questions for Joy at this time? Member Macaulay.
Thank you. I just have one question for Joy. I went out to this area. I know this area fairly well. In fact, I have parked in that parking lot that we are now proposing to build upon, or that's being proposed to build upon, because there's a kind of a nice restaurant pub next door, and
Absolutely.
I've used it a couple of times. But my question for Joy is, on Macintosh Street, there's a number of new houses. Probably about 50% of the street has now got new houses that are fairly new 2-story houses, and there's some older ones. Joy has said she's been there for 10 years. Are you in one of the new houses, or are you in one of the older houses? Maybe I'll make it simpler. Are you in a single-story house, or are you in a 2-story house?
Yes, I am in a single-story bungalow. So I'm in one of the older houses.
Thank you. And then the second question, follow up on that. I went down the Sandown Lane, and do you use the access off of Sandown Lane?
I do. That's my access point to our garage and our parking spaces, and so we're directly behind the proposed development, and we use it every day, taking my kids to school and coming back. So we definitely know what the access to the lane is like, because again, that is our main access to our home.
Yes, as I was using it yesterday, I noticed there's a lot of people walking up and down it, and I was driving down it. So I was a little concerned that I would be meeting the traffic, but there was sufficient room that I could pull over when I met traffic and let them go past. So thank you you very much for that clarification.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Macaulay. I don't see any other hand raised. Because I can't see the whole screen, I just want to confirm. Okay. All right, so let's go to our next speaker. Mohammed, you didn't have your hand raised, right? Because I didn't see you. No? Okay, perfect. All right, let's go to Paul MacArthur, who is the next speaker listed.
Actually, I'm one of the owners of the property and I
Oh.
registered, I guess mistakenly. So Sean McCaffrey would be speaking on my behalf.
I see. Thank you very much for clarifying that. I didn't have that information with me. All right, so now we go back to Sean. Sean?
Hi, thank you. And thank you to the members of the public for their submissions on this, but I have to come back to the point that I wanted to clarify first, because I heard a lot about, you know, the development towering or concerns of privacy and overlook. I really need to clarify that this form of development at this height was put in place by a bylaw adopted by City Council in December of 2009 and has been enforced for 12 years at this point. The reality is, this is the first project along this block that is taking advantage of these enforced zoning regulations. In terms of the bicycle parking blocking the sidewalk space, you know, we have thought through that, and if I could get page 8 of the city planning staff report, or at least turn your attention to that for me, you'll see that the on-street parking in front of this building is proposed to be removed and replaced with more soft landscaping, a curb bump out, and new street trees at the request of Urban Forestry. The city had a plan 12 years ago to urbanize this stretch of Kingston Road and to create it into a more pedestrian-friendly, active urban environment. And it's projects and development that will bring people to the corridor that is going to contribute to that. So with that, you know, I've heard the concerns from the community. I can't say that I agree with them. I understand the change, and it is a significant change. It's going from a surface parking lot to a 6-story building, but there needs to be an understanding that that height of 6 stories is permitted on this site.
Correct. And then I also want to add that there's a comment was made about the overdevelopment of the site. I don't see any variance associated with any lot coverage or FSI or GFA variances as well. So you're within the permitted regulations. You're seeking for parking and some minor regulations, minor deviations there. All right, thank you very much. I think it's important to clarify to the residents in terms of the scope of this application. Member M, I see your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You basically touched upon all of those things that I was going to say, along with the applicant as well. This is a permitted built form as of right, and that this area of Kingston Road was always meant for revitalization. And with revitalization comes changes to built form, and built form that is a little bit more intensified, especially considering that this is an affordable like rental housing component. So, you know, these meet many, many city objectives, and it's just unfortunately the start. This is the first one along the stretch. And, you know, this was the intent of that original bylaw from 2009. Speaking towards the actual parking variance, which is on our plate today, you know, I do understand that we are a bit shy, and then how does that interface with the access to the neighbor to the rear? You know, there will still be appropriate turning movements and abilities to access that laneway. Everything has been looked at from our transportation department as part of the site plan application, and if there were major concerns with like access movements and how it relates to the parking area in the back, I feel like those things would have been flushed out, and we wouldn't if it wasn't ready to be proceeded by city staff. So, you know, that's my 2 cents here. And, you know, I'm sympathetic that it's definitely a change from the existing condition, but it's a change to achieve an overall objective from the city to provide more affordable housing and to urbanize this part of Kingston Road as part of a revitalization strategy. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And
you.
Ali, we have something from you?
Yeah, through the chair, Daniela has just joined us. One of the speakers that wasn't in earlier.
I guess we're past that, but we passed the speaker's thing.
The applicant has already provided a rebuttal, so it's too late at this point.
It's too late. So the advice I'm receiving from staff is that the applicant's or the speaker's turn has passed. The applicant has provided a rebuttal, so unfortunately, I will not be able to break the rules here, and we will have to proceed as we were proceeding previously. So thank you, staff, and Daniela, if you're listening, I apologize, but that's sort of the way the hearing works, is that we need to proceed as we've already heard back from the applicant and received a rebuttal. So carrying on, I'd say if there are any questions or any clarification that you need from Sean, let me know at this time. Otherwise, let's take the matter into committee and go ahead with the motion. Member M?
I have no further questions for Sean. I just wanted to say I am prepared to put a motion of approval forward, as I do feel that they've made a concerted effort to try to make a development that is appropriate for this area of the community, and that they have even strived for very innovative TDM measures, such as, you know, shared car spaces in order to help support the reduction in parking. I see that all of these variances before us are just technical in nature that is tied to the site design. And, you know, there can be amenity space provided through, you know, rooftop terraces, etc., balconies. I do feel that these ones are appropriate and are just required to implement the very site-specific designs that are being put forward and before us today that have been very well vetted by city planning and engineering staff. So with that, I am putting forward a motion of approval
Member
for
M,
item number
Member
9.
M, wait, we have, there was a hand raised. Member Macaulay, before you put forward the motion, I'll come back to you, Member M, but I want to hear Member Macaulay. Go ahead.
You can proceed with Member M. I just wanted to add my own comments to this. I believe this is an area that is going to change, just as McIntyre Street itself has been changing over the years, with smaller houses being replaced by two-story houses. Kingston Road in this location also has been changing over the years, and this is the first intensive development that we see on the up on the north side of Kingston Road. So if Member M wants to proceed, I would be happy to second her motion. I would also add that there are a number of conditions, including a number of permits that are needed, including agreements for the relocation of the existing housing units, the rental housing
I
component.
was getting there and you just had cut me off, so, but I was definitely going to get to those conditions.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Member M,
Okay.
go ahead.
Should I start again? Because I kind of lost my train.
No, you just have to put forward a motion now.
Okay, so given what I had said earlier, I do feel that this application achieves a lot of the good planning principles that city staff are striving to do along this area of Kingston Road. And I am comfortable with putting forward a motion of approval, subject to the community planning conditions, which are to tie certain things to a commitment to replace the rental units, as well as assist the existing tenants in relocating, along with tying the design and the approval to the plans. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So essentially,
Thank
all
you.
the recommendations that are in the community planning staff report, which may be over and above
Correct.
for the ones that you mentioned. Okay, may I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I will second that motion.
All right, all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application has been approved subject to conditions of community planning staff report dated October 13. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next item that was held was item number 10. Item number 10 is 91 Watson Street. And we have Bibi and Bobby Sukra as the owners. Can we have Bibi and Bobby? Perfect.
Yeah, good morning, Madam Chair and committee members.
Good morning, Bobby. So the reason why this application was held for further discussion was that Committee of Adjustment has received a staff report from Community Planning, and Community Planning is recommending refusal of the variances for the building length and the building depth, which are the two requested variances in the application. Have you read the staff report, and what are your
Of
thoughts
course,
and comments on the proposed recommendation?
of course, I did. I'd like to do a little presentation, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Please go ahead and take your 5 minutes and then let us know, present your application.
Um, our, actually, we've been living in this area for 35 years, and we have 3 other family members. Our existing home is 2195 square feet. It's just 204 square meters. And we're proposing an addition of 40.4 square meters. And it's above the garage. It's an additional living space. And we're living in a bungalow, and the reason is we live with disability and mobility issues. And we can't live in a 2-story home. It's very difficult. So the garage is the lowest point in the home where we can add additional living space. I've spoken to our neighbors, and I've seek their support, and they're in agreement with our design, because if we build in front of the home, we'll be looking along along our streets, north and south, are all mostly bungalows. If we build a 2-story home, we'll be looking into our neighbors' kitchen, washrooms, and bedrooms. And the neighbors are in support with us building on the back of the garage for the additional space. We can't build in front because it'll be higher stairs to get to the 2nd story. With mobility, it's really, really difficult to do things like that. We have health reasons. We have sensitive to the light and sound and things like that. Mobility is an issue. It's not only one family member. There's more than one with issues like this. We've considered privacy with our neighbors, and then we've also got their support. And they prefer for us to build above the garage in the back instead of in front. So I'm asking committee to consider these points and approve our garage addition.
Okay, thanks, Bobby. So I just want to clarify, you had received approval from the Committee of Adjustment in 2014 to allow you the building length and the building depth, although it was tied to 1-story addition only. So at this time, your application is not making any change to those variances, except that you're adding
No.
additional story on top of that 1-story addition that was approved, correct?
That's correct.
Correct. And the community planning has expressed concern that this may set a precedent in the area with respect to, as they call it, the incremental development, and setting a precedent within the area for that. What are your thoughts on that?
They're correct in a sense, but at the same time, if you look at 95 Watson, the city has allowed them to split their lots and build over 3,000 square foot homes on the severance lot, right? And currently, right on Watson, 53 Watson, the city is allowed a new construction going on right now, and they've set back the garage way back into the building, set back in the back. Our setback is 112 feet from the garage, and what the city allowed at 53 watts, and it's even further back in the property.
So basically what I'm hearing from you, so I just want to know your thoughts on, in your opinion, this is not setting a negative precedent in the area? That's
Of
what I want to
course.
hear your comment on.
Yeah, if you look at the square footage of our home, it's only 2,195 square feet currently, and it's a bungalow because we're living with mobility and disability.
Okay.
A full two-story home will not satisfy us, and it will not satisfy our neighbors, both north and south, their bungalows.
Okay, but 2 stories are permitted in this zoning, and that's not a problem. Okay, all right, thank you for that. Member M, you have your hand raised, please go ahead.
Thank you. So just to clarify, there was more than one variance. There was a variance, like you said, in 2014, and then a subsequent variance in 2016. The one in 2014 was for building length, depth, driveway width, and garage floor area and height. The one in 2016 was to further extend that building length and that building depth. So we've had multiple variances before us over the few years to really expand this building footprint. And both of those previous variances were tied to only that being applied to the 1-story addition, meaning that staff had a very strong opposition for it to include a 2nd-story addition above. And I think the reason for that is that this is a much longer building than would otherwise be permitted here. But because it's only at the 1st floor, there's less impact to the overall aesthetic of the community, right? The overall not lot configuration, but built form configuration on this street. And you did reference other new builds, but the difference with those new builds is that it's one cohesive 2-story dwelling. It's not this very long house with a 2nd-story addition on top of the garage at the back that really looks much different than everything else that you see in this community. And I think that's where the problem was. If you were to come before us with a whole new clean slate and you were building just a traditional two-story house on this property, I don't see that as a problem. I think what the problem is that this is an already very elongated built form that city staff have on multiple occasions with multiple reports throughout the years have said, we do not want to see this extended building have a 2nd floor on it. And I really have to, respect city planning staff. That is their job. It is their job to interpret the policies of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw. And we very rarely get reports like this requesting refusal. They really try their best to work with the applicant, to work with the community, to have some sort of like agreement. But in this particular case, they've written this report of refusal. I must heed their warning. I feel like it's appropriate. And when I look at the actual design of the building, it does not fit in with the design along this area, along this street. So that is my opinion, Madam Chair.
Okay, Member M, I just want to clarify with you, and I hear what you have to say, but the proposed 2nd story is above the garage only. It's not for the entirety of the length of the building.
But that's part of the problem and where that is placed, right?
Okay.
The 2nd story is only at the garage at the rear. If the 2nd story was more closer to the frontage part, more consistent to what a normal 2-story building would look like, as opposed to this very large setback on the step back, not setback, and then this garage roof like extended up. It's just, to me, it does not.
Okay. I would like, if you look at the north elevation, right, of the drawing, you're saying that you're looking at the elevation, right? If you look at the existing roof in the back there, it is just the garage, top of the garage roof. That's mostly what is extending above, right?
Yeah, but it's
existing home
location
and
of
the soffit area.
That's okay, one at a time. One at a
That's the
time.
difference in height.
Okay.
It's not the height that's my problem, sir. It's the fact that you've gotten multiple variances to extend the length of the existing building. And those multiple variances were very specifically tied to only a one-story addition. And so now you are requesting something that is in complete conflict with the conditions that were previously outlined to your previous variances. And there is a reason for that. The reason is the built form compatibility.
And city asked the neighbors to comment on the design. We consulted with our neighbors on this design. They do not want us to construct, although the building code allow a two-story home in front. They do
But
not
you
want
are
a two-story home looking into their homes.
You're allowed
And
as a
with our
right
mobility
to build
issues,
One at a time,
stories in
please.
the front.
the
Member M,
two-story home
Member
will
M,
be
hold your
much
comments.
too high for us, right?
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you repeat that for me, please, Bobby?
No, with a two-story home, with our mobility issues, we could have, in the beginning, constructed two-story home from the beginning, but we can't live in a two-story home, and this is the lowest point to add additional room without excavating, putting additional foundation, things like that, least impact on our neighbors for construction, things like that. And
Okay.
looking into their homes, right?
Okay, thank you very much. Member M, now you can speak.
I'm just saying that along your street, there's not a single house that have that configuration. There are lots of two-story houses, like directly across the street from you, but there is not a single house with such a long building length and depth that will have a second story placed upon it at the rear. And I side with city planning staff. As a professional planner myself, I respect their professional planning opinion that this is not appropriate. This is not an appropriate built form for this street, and I'm not supportive of these variances.
Okay, thank you,
But
Member
I would
M.
like to add, we still have 112
Okay, sorry,
feet
Bobby,
setback.
let's wait. Just wait for my cue before you speak, because we get a lot of
Sorry.
feedback because we're doing virtuals. You got to understand, we have to give one person at a time to speak. So I hear you. Let's get to the question first. So Member Macaulay and then Member Said. Member Macaulay, you go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the applicant, he is proposing a two-story addition on the back of the property over top of the garage. Now, you have said that you have mobility issues, which is why you only want a one-story in the front. We are looking at what are the special circumstances that makes this two-story at the rear appropriate? And I guess my question is, if you have mobility issues, who would be using this two-story? Is it for a second family?
No,
Or
our family is 5 people, right? So the people who can be mobile will use that spot. But of course, we have issues. There will be times when we would want to go up there. So that's the lowest point in the home where we can do a second story without having additional steps, right? We're trying to keep the home with least amounts of stairs inside. That's what always kept the bungalow configuration, right? Would be easy to build a two-story home like everyone else, but we can't live in a home like that. I mean,
okay.
What
I heard
The question
had
was,
mobility
Bobby,
issues.
yeah, the question was, if there's someone with a disability, who is this person, like, what is this additional space going to be utilized for, correct, Member Macaulay, or who's going to be using it?
Sorry?
What is the
My mom.
purpose, what is the purpose of this room that is being constructed up? It's a bedroom?
No, it's a living space.
So any persons with disability living in this house, would that person not have an issue in going upstairs and using that space?
We will put a chair lift, like, to slide up along the stairs.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Member Macaulay? Let's go ahead. Okay, Member Said, please go ahead.
My questions have been answered.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to add my comments on the overall variance. And the variance before the committee is the length which was approved in the previous committee of adjustment meeting. And there was a condition placed very clear. And I recall that at that time, the applicant was very clear about that condition, and it was explained to that in a very special circumstances, the variance was approved with the condition that this apply only to the single story. Now putting a second story with this length of instead of 17 meter to 31 meter, which is a long and a huge garage already, and putting a second story with that. And Madam Chair, as you mentioned, how it is going to be setting a precedent for the neighborhood, which is, I think this is going to be a negative precedent if we approve that. So in my opinion, I would say we should be adhering to the previous decision of the committee because that approval was only for a single story. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much, Member M.
Thank you, Member Saeed. I'm in full agreement with you. And if the applicant was willing to put a chairlift for the rear, it's a second story in the back versus a second story in the front. It can be accommodated for with a chairlift in both situations. I think that, you know, there was many abilities to discuss this. It was very clear during the last hearing that we would never be like okay with this condition, and now it's before us. I think we have to be consistent with our past rulings, and I agree with Member Saeed's statement.
Okay, thank you, Member M. So I think we've had some good discussion on it. And Bobby, if I can come to you. So Bobby, do you have any closing remarks before we take the matter into committee?
At this point, it wouldn't make a difference. If they look at the street in the back of us, right, they've allowed new homes, there are lots of these put new homes in it, and they've allowed massive bungalows right in the back of us. You have the pictures there, which I've showed the footprint. And you have our neighbor support, right?
Okay, so
They've
you
all
have the,
supported our
okay.
design.
Okay, so you have letters
We
of
have
support.
And the letters are there.
Okay, fair enough. We have those letters of support on file. We have reviewed it, and we've seen that. So I just want to give you an opportunity to provide your final remarks before we take the matter into committee for a decision. Is that what you wanted to say, or and can we move on?
But consider privacy and on our neighbors' consideration. You know, we have our neighbor support and the preference for us to build above the garage. It will have at least impact on our health and our accessibility needs. It's a win-win for us and our neighbor. We're not
Okay.
going to build a massive home in front, towering over their bungalows. Right? I know that's what the city wants us to do, but our neighbors don't support that. I respectfully disagree. You know, with the building department.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Members of the committee? Member M.
I just want to say it's not comparable to other lots. We have to look at this in site specifics, right? The other lots have a different configuration to both the lots and the actual building design. Just because another lot has development on it, you know, they're not developing in the same configuration in which this is requesting. Right. And so, you know, I'm appreciative that he's seeing construction elsewhere, but it's not an apples to apples situation.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, all right. We've had some good discussion on it, and we've heard all the members and as well as the applicant. Let's go into committee now. So we're taking this matter into committee now. Members, any comments, any thoughts? I think you all have had your piece. Okay, then if there are no further comments, is there a motion? Member Saeed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In my opinion, the variance requested in these applications are neither minor nor appropriate. With that, I move the motion for refusal of application number 10.
Have a seconder, Member M?
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application has been denied.
Through the chair, did you vote on this as well?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, thank you. So it's carried unanimously? Thank you.
It is carried unanimously. The application has been denied.
Excuse me, through the chair, we need to switch streams to the PM number, is it PM1 stream? So for the viewers, we will be switching streams to the PM number 1 stream momentarily, probably in the next 2 minutes, in the next 5 minutes, sorry.
Okay. So 5 minutes, we break for the stream to be switched to the PM stream?
PM number 1.
PM number 1 stream?
Yes.
Okay, so hold on for 5 minutes. Thank you.
I'm chair and staff. I'm experiencing a double audio feed, and I'm wondering if I should leave the meeting